When it comes to knowing how to fix a guitar, few people are as well known and respected as Steve Soest. Steve Soest has been living, eating, and breathing all things guitar, at least since his early teen years, and he's been kind enough to come down and join us today on the Guitar Show. Thanks a lot for being here, Steve.
Oh, thanks for having me, Phil.
Great. Tell me, how did it all start for you fixing guitars?
Gee, I started playing when I was about 14, and from there I got curious about the guitars, started taking them apart and doing work for guys in my band and neighborhood kids, and kind of started that way.
So in all your years of fixing guitars, have people been bringing you stuff that, has anyone ever brought you anything, for instance, that maybe you didn't even want to touch or that was too valuable or just too far gone to even
Oh,
want to
sure,
look at?
yeah. I kind of have a network of guys that I work with that are specialists in certain phases of guitar repair, so I can send stuff to them if I ever get stumped, but there's been some pretty wild stuff.
So when you started out fixing guitars, I don't imagine there was as many resources as there are today for people.
No, not at all. I think there was one book called Irving Sloane's Guide to Guitar Repair, and it was just strictly about classical guitars, nothing about electric at all.
So does it really come down to just common sense and a little empirical science and trial and error?
Yeah, I took a lot of stuff apart and messed it up before I really got it right, you know.
But eventually you probably all got it back together at some time.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I've seen a list of a lot of the clients you've worked for, and I've even seen some pictures, and it really does read like a who's who in the guitar world. And I'm wondering how you managed to start out just by yourself as a kid, basically, and work your way up to that kind of level where people like Stevie Ray Vaughan would bring you some kind of project.
Well, I started doing work for stores in the area and some couple pawn shops that I was buying guitars from and fixing them up. And then I opened my own shop in '74. And about 6 years later, I met guys like David Lindley and the guys from The Who and started selling them instruments and doing repairs for them.
So it really just came down to knowing people who knew people and proving your stuff, and then they brought you more and more.
Just took time.
Well, we've got some pictures of you with Stevie Ray and that double neck Dan Electro you did for him. How did that come about, and what exactly did you do for him?
A friend of mine, a guy named Jim Washburn, was doing an interview with him for the LA Times, and he mentioned that he was looking for one, and Jim told him I had one. So Stevie Ray called me on the phone, and I thought maybe it was an imposter at first, you know, and he called and chatted with me.
You didn't hang up or anything?
No, I didn't hang up. He left a message first, you know, a long message on my machine, and he said he'd like to buy it, but he wanted me to convert the, it was a double neck. The Dan Electro had a 6-string guitar and a 4-string bass neck on it, and he wanted the 4-string neck, or the 4-string neck converted to a 6-string bass neck.
Sure.
So I got the original parts and did the conversion, and then went down and met him at a show and sold it to him.
So Dan Electro is obviously going gangbusters these days. I've seen a lot of Dan Electros around for us for a long time. They just apparently were gone.
Yeah, they got pretty rare there for a while.
And now that they're back up and running again, I understand you were pretty instrumental in getting them back up and going.
Yeah, I've been involved with them for about 2 years now.
What was your role? What did you do for them?
Well, they contacted me originally because they were just doing pedals, and people would come up to them at the trade shows and say, when are you going to do guitars? And they hadn't really thought about doing that. And everybody mentioned my name because I'd done articles about collecting Dan Electros and the history of Dan Electro and been a collector for some time on the things. And so they contacted me and said, would you do this? And I thought, this is it. This is what I was made to do.
So how do the Dan Electros of today, like for instance, I'm holding a new one, how do they compare nowadays to the ones made in the 60s?
Construction-wise, they're real similar. We're using the hardboard, you know, face and back on them with the wood insides, and they have hollow chambers in them. And the wiring on this particular model you're holding is quite new. This was a wiring that I designed. And you've got series positions, and then one position you can flip the switch down and get everything on no matter where you're at on the road.
So you never would have had 5 channels and 3
No, you wouldn't have
before.
had that. The original 3-pickup Dan Electro had 3 on and off knobs on the top and then 3 volumes on the bottom, and then you had to mix real quick. You couldn't, you know, switch and do 2 or 3 things to get the tone you wanted.
So Dan Electros probably are best known, at least from what I'm aware of their lipstick pickups.
Yeah.
And I didn't actually know until I read a book that they were called lipstick pickups because they were really lipstick casings on the outside. What are they making now? Are they just remanufacturing lipstick casings?
Yeah, obviously the company that Nat Daniel bought them from was somewhere on the East Coast, and they were actually a cosmetic supplier, and they were actual lipstick tubes. We're just having them remanufactured, same materials. They're made out of the same stuff and the same size, but they're just made by a different manufacturer.
So speaking of Nat Daniel, Nat was the founder of Dan Electro, and from what I understand, he couldn't play a lick.
Nope, not at all.
No,
He was
didn't
an
even know
engineer.
Well, and Leo Fender, I suppose, was too. But comparing the two, from what I've read, and I know you're somewhat of a historian on the subject, Nat Daniel came out with a lot of innovative things before maybe even Fender or Gibson did.
Yeah, he did. He was involved way back in the 30s and the 20s. He'd done some electronic things. What's known as the push-pull amp circuitry, he was involved in working on that, and he came up with it at the same time that the guy who got credit for it did. And so as far as amplifiers, he did that. He pointed the tubes up so the heat would dissipate quicker instead of having it hang down like some manufacturers were doing. Excuse me. And he used aluminum chassis rather than steel.
Aside from your work from Dan Electro and working with people like Steve Vaughn, you're also an avid surf guitar player. And I know you've toured, even playing bass. So you're a bass player too. You play surf guitar, and you've toured with Dick Dale and played with Tesco Del Rey and those kind of people. When it comes to surf guitar, even people I know who don't even know how to play guitar always pick up and start going, try to do that kind of thing, which obviously I can't even do. What is the trick? Do you know the trick?
Oh, it's just double picking. You know, Dick Dale was the king of that stuff. I mean, the thing, you're getting your hand going real fast. You know, and just, you know.
So it's just that simple.
It's like a mandolin player plays. I think that's where it came from, the mandolin double picking thing. And
so if someone's going to endeavor to learn to play surf guitar, what are the first few songs they should endeavor to learn?
gosh, I had Play Guitar with the Ventures record, and that's really helpful. They've got a record where they help you tune the guitar, and then some sheet music showing you where the chords are, and then you can sit down and actually learn note by note, like Walk, Don't Run or something.
In your band, I've heard your recordings with the Torquays, and there's some really classic surf stuff there.
Great, thanks.
How did you pick those songs?
Oh, there were some of our favorites that we play live, and then it's mixed with originals that we've written over the last 10 years or so.
So how did you get the job playing bass for Dick Dale?
Oh, a friend of mine, one of my clients was his rhythm guitar player. He was a neighbor of his down in Newport Beach where Dick was living at the time. And he came in and I said, if the bass player ever dies, call me, man. I'd love to play with Dick Dale.
He didn't die, did he?
Oh, no. He was very healthy. He just retired from playing, and I went down and got the job.
So what kind of setup do you use when you play surf music?
Oh, we use a Fender Jaguar or Jazzmaster similar to this one. I've got a white 62. It's blonde, the ash body, and a Fender dual Showman, blonde dual Showman with JBL 15-inch speakers and a Fender outboard reverb tank.
So even though we're big and instrumental in helping Dan Electro, you're not necessarily the ideal guitar for surf guitar.
Maybe now because the new Hodad has the tremolo on it, and we didn't have tremolo before, and you really need that in surf guitar. Actually, it's a vibrato. Fender called it a tremolo.
Steve, have you ever worried that with the advent of all this new technical, digital technology, that guitars might lose their appeal and you'd be out of work?
Every day.
Every day?
I think about it every day. But, you know, every year goes by, it's okay, and I might make it into retirement without losing it, you know.
Well, guitars are such a cultural symbol, and what do you think what do you suppose the world would be like today if a guitar had just never been invented? Aside from your own life.
We'd all be playing accordions probably or something, taking accordion lessons. I mean, music affects everything. I mean, the culture is kind of dictated by the music. You have, you know, the Beatles, haircuts, clothing styles, art, you know, it's all tied into music.
The whole thing.
Without electric guitars, you know, I hate to think about a world without guitars.
Well, I sure hope they keep going. I really appreciate making it out to the guitar show today.
Great. Thanks for having me. All right.